Hi, it's Dave or Image Maker UK, and I'm doing this video to show those maybe thinking about getting digital or changing from DC to digital to DCC as it's called. Show them how to fit a basic decoder, but first I'm going to show you the differences which going digital can make to the performance of your locomotive. Christmas has just happened, so that's a good reason as any to do this type of video. Maybe a lot of beginners out there thinking, well, I like this and I'd like to expand, and wondering about digital, so this is a little insight into it. These first two clips will show you the difference between the running of the locomotive, and there's quite a large difference, which is why most are pretty much all enthusiasts do eventually go at least partially digital. Now this layout is normally all DCC powered, which means an AC power supply, but this locomotive, which I reviewed, was my last review. If you've seen it or plan to watch it, has not had the decoder fitted yet, so it's still a DC, and this is my isolated section of track which I use to code the locomotives once they've been fitted with a DCC decoder. And if you don't know what that means, I'll explain that later on. So, but even though this is an isolated track, because I'm using DC, I've just taken the added precaution of, if you bear with me, taking out a whole section of track. So we only have this section of track here and round there, and it just runs around there to those buffers way down there. So that's what we will be using. And I'll show you the performance of this in DC right now. Okay, so I'll now try and take this loco and stop it as nicely as I can down at the buffers that I showed you. So set it off. Stop a minute. Have to bear with me with the camera work. I can't use a tripod at this section for certain reasons. So here we go. Get the buffers in view. Now to try and bring it to a smooth stop as I can. There we go. And that was very jerky, as I think you'll agree. And those of you who are still DC will know that that is what you have to do if you try to make a slow progressive stop. I mean, you could effectively have done this and then just stopped it, but that's not very lifelike at all. So if I bring it back again this way, again I'll try and keep it quite slow. You'll notice, as you'll already know, that the headlights flicker and go off if you try to make it go slow at all. That's the slowest I'm able to make it go. I'll pick up speed a bit and then stop it. Okay, so I've taken it back down there. What I'm going to do now is bring it back so it's not a biased video. I'll bring it back at a moderate DC speed, and then after that we can do the DCC comparison. So pan out a bit, try and make the camera work a bit easier, and bring it back. You can see the lights are working a great deal better, but they are still flickering quite a lot, and I can see that. So that's it for this part. I'll go and decode it I'll film the next part and then I'll show you the installation. Okay, so now we have the Decoder Fitted locomotive. No, it's not a different one. It is, I'll just put on some detailing, the snowplow's main hose and the horns. So this is it, and it's now DCC equipped rather than being DCC ready as it was before, in other words DC. So the first thing you need to do is assign it an address. Now by default the decoders come with the default address of number 3, so this will work with that address. So I want this one to have that address 35. So you go to the menu, in the dynamic system anyway, you go to the menu, oh sorry, that's wrong. You select locomotive 35 first because I know it's empty, as it just says loco 35. Go into the menu, I can edit the name first, which I'll do. I have to delete out the default name of locomotive 35. And I'll call this one, it's just like a text type entry, keypad. I'll call this one 37. And space. And for now I'll just put in D and B. I will put in DB Schenker later on, but that'll do for now, save time. So that is named DB Schenker. So what we do, we still haven't programmed the chip, so scroll across the menu and you get all these options and you get program. So you select that. On main track we don't want that, as I said this is before it is my isolated track. So service track, yes. And all you do now is it says down here, I don't know if you can read that or not, it says program, so you press that, and if you watch the loco, while it's doing it, the loco should move probably normally. And that's it. It should now have that address. And I should be able to put the lights on it. There we go. And it will now work this train. Just out of interest, for those of you that don't know, if I scroll across, it comes to edit symbol. If I hit that, simply can scroll across the symbols from steam train, you've got electric train, and you've got a diesel. So the default is generally diesel, so that is this symbol selected. So diesel, locomotive electric, 37 dB, it will say Schenker for me once I type it in. And that's your speed there on this, and that's your menu system, and that's your loco selection, and this is for consist, this other bit. And the lights just turn on and off with that button. And that's your direction button there. And of course that's your emergency stop. If you press that, everything stops in the whole layout. If you've maybe got several trains running at once, hit that, immediately stop, just as though you turn a DC controller right round to 0 locomotive stops. So if I remember right, on the Hornby version of this, Selector Elite, you've got a big red button that says stop. That's just it's just the same. This is just, in my view, a little bit tidier, and this is infrared, so it's wireless, so I can walk around and it sends it to the main control unit, which is over there. So what I shall do now is I'll shut off the camera, put it back where it was, and give you a little demonstration of it running on this this little track. So here she is back as she was previously, and while I was giving her her own dedicated number, you will probably already have noted, the DC people, that the lights can work when she is at a stand. Thus, that is because in DCC, full voltage is applied to the track at all times. It is the controller that regulates that voltage distribution to the particular engine. So, like I said before, you can have several engines running around the track at different speeds, all controlled by the control unit via the train's onboard decoder, and they can all be running at different speeds and doing different things. And if something goes wrong, as I said, just hit the stop button, everything stops. So I shall now demonstrate the difference in movement of the DCC arrangement. So if we set her to go the other direction, she has no real this locomotive tail lights. That's a Vitrain thing. They are very, very slightly lit, but nothing to speak of. I'll set her off, and I'll set her off relatively briskly, but she does start slower and more realistically. And I'll bring her to a stop. That was me bringing her to a full stop using the DCC controller. I'll demonstrate that a wee bit better hopefully in a minute. But we shall now try and do the parking manoeuvre at those set of buffers as before and see what the difference is. So if we take her up to speed again, and slow her down as you would a real train. She can approach those buffers, and the little shunter or the driver's helper can tell the driver when to stop the train. And she stops. And there's none of that very jerkiness, and it's much more lifelike. I think you will agree. So change the direction again. And bring her back round towards the camera. And she sets off quite normally. A nice realistic thing. And if I go to the full stop again, full stop, she doesn't just stop, she slows down. Yeah. I'll take her back around again. One more time. And full stop. She just slows down. What we'll do is, I'll bring her back and I'll demonstrate her very slow running. And there you can see she is still running very slowly at a steady rate. The lights are fixed, but it is much better, and you just couldn't do that DC at all. And she's still creeping towards the camera. So I'll just let her creep a little bit more, and then we'll stop her. There we go. So that is the difference in running between DC and DCC. And I think you will agree that DCC is a lot better. So now I think we'll move on to part 2 of this little tutorial and show you the fitting of the chip and how easy it is. And there's no need to to worry about it at all.